So welcome to the new year and a new episode of the Tessa Talks To podcast. This is the fourth series where I'm chatting to city workers about what music means to them. I'm here today with Julianne Poston at Macquarie Bank. Julianne is a senior manager and you're also a very keen pianist. So welcome, Julianne. Thanks for being here with me today at Macquarie to talk about what music means to you. What does music mean to you?
Thank you. Music has been a really big part of my life since I was a child, basically. I started piano lessons at the age of 4 and then had them all through high school. But then there was a really big gap from about the age of 16 until really only a couple of years ago. And it's only really thanks to Music and Offices that I've started up with those lessons again.
Because finding the time after work and at weekends is impossible, really. And not impossible, but it's harder and harder to prioritise time for something for yourself after work. So doing it through the day, that Macquarie's given that opportunity, is really valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I first moved over to the UK, I also didn't have a piano, which was a big problem.
It's kind of key.
So it was really helpful when Macquarie decided to purchase a piano for our little music room here. And that was really, again, down to us introducing the Music and Offices lessons on site. So we started just by borrowing a piano, and then when the lessons became more and more popular, we purchased that piano, and that then led to me practicing more, and then now eventually taking up lessons again myself, which has just been fantastic. To be honest, taking up the lessons has been a real driver behind me practicing more as well. There's something to be said for the guilt trip of knowing that your teacher will be eyeing you up the next lesson going, have you been practicing?
In a way, the lessons, at this stage are kind of like a goal for you, and perhaps as you get more confident with playing, you'll play in the concerts and have something more to work towards.
Exactly. And it's been a real confidence boost as well. After such a huge gap in between my lessons as a child and then lessons as an adult, I really did worry whether I was going to be able to pick up all the skills that I had as a teenager. And it's come back so quickly, which has been really gratifying.
So let's have a listen to you, Julianne, playing the piano now. Are you going to play us Chopin? It would be lovely. Thank you, Julianne. That's beautiful. So still. Shall we have a listen now to you playing an extract of Beethoven's Pathetique Sonata? what did you miss about music? What's brought you back to playing, and what difference do you feel now having music such a big part of your life now, with the choir as well?
Yeah, well, the choir was something that I think I picked up again before the piano lessons. So before we really engaged with music and officers, we'd attempted to have a little choir at Macquarie. It ended up being about five of us. They were all girls, so we had an all-female choir. And, it was really nice, but without someone professional helping to drive us, helping us to pick songs, and as you say, setting those goals of having a concert to work towards, we really just didn't go very far and we didn't do very much. Once we had our music and officers choir conductor come in, it was a real sort of boost for us, and we're still about ranging between 11 to 15 of us.
You make such a good sound. We had you performing in the Christmas concert, and that was a real treat to have you back performing. I think as a community, the choir can really contribute a lot to the culture here at Macquarie. You raise money for charities.
Yeah, there's some really fantastic things about the choir. I think the first thing is that it's a great way for us to meet other people across the business. There's over 1,000 people that work in this office, and even though being part of HR, I do get to meet a lot of them, there's still so many people who I would never have known but for the fact that we sing together now.
Standing next to each other, and
Yeah, and you have people from, junior graduates all the way up to division directors who are all part of the choir. So it's a really fabulous equaliser and a nice way to meet people in sort of a semi-social setting. And then, as you said, we do a lot of charity work as well with our charity partner, Streetwise Opera. We've also raised money recently for Auditory Verbal, who are another charity partner of ours. So there's some really great ways for us to give back to the community through our choir as well.
And Streetwise Opera, they are an inspiring, incredible organisation, but they've also integrated a little bit more with your leadership programmes, haven't they? They've given workshops in how to listen and how to work collaboratively. Tell us a little bit more about how Streetwise Opera and music's become more part of the learning.
Yeah, but they've given us loads of different opportunities for Macquarie staff to get involved. As you said, they've let us join them for sort of workshops, and we have our leadership team who sort of work with them in mentoring situations as well. We also partner with them as a choir, so our Macquarie choir have sung with the Streetwise Opera choir as well, so we do that as part of our foundation week typically every year. It's been just such a different experience from anything else that I've done, either in my work or through the choir as well. They're just such a fantastic organisation. You meet people with such different backgrounds and interesting stories behind them as well, and just fabulous singers too.
Yeah,
as you say,
first and foremost.
Yeah.
I think for those people listening who aren't aware of Streetwise Opera, it's a charity and organisation for people who are homeless to sing together, to perform together, and to integrate back into society through music making. What other areas of the workplace culture here at Macquarie does the choir reach?
The other thing that's been fantastic about having the choir is that it really builds into our wellness and well-being offering. It's such a great mindfulness exercise because you really are doing something completely different to your day job. So for that 1 hour a week, it's a different mind space. You're doing something completely. It's a little bit physical, to be quite honest. I think I'm often out of breath at the end of the choir rehearsal.
Good. That means that conductors worked you hard. But it's the breathing, the exercises. It's breathing together collectively that has such a huge impact, I think, both on your health and well-being, but also, like you say, your physical health.
Yeah. And I know it's not just me. I've had so many choir members tell me they go back to their desks just buzzing after rehearsal, and possibly humming to themselves the rest of the day as well.
and it's been proven also that productivity levels increase. So it's a business benefit as well as a sort of health and individual benefit. It's a real business benefit to the collective is coming together, making new relationships. The choir forms its own community within itself, doesn't it? So you form business relationships as well as personal relationships.
Absolutely. It's created, great situations where you need to connect with someone on a business level, and it's so much easier when you already know who they are and you have that connection from being in the choir together, which is lovely. We've also had the great opportunity to collaborate with the choir from Trowers and Hamlin, who are a nearby law firm, And for the last 3 or 4 years, we've done caroling together, both at our office and in their offices as well. So that's nice too. Again, we're sort of building those relationships with an external firm as well, just through our singing, which is lovely.
Perfect, and that's what it's about. On the days where you have a piano lesson or you have your choir rehearsal, do you find yourself singing on your commute?
Well, singing internally, I don't think that my fellow train commuters would appreciate it that much, but no, absolutely. Especially, I have to say, during Christmas. And it's hard to avoid Christmas carols at the best of times, but I love it. I love the classic Green Book carols.
Oh.
The thing that's really nice as well is when you go to another external carol concert, being an alto, I know all the harmonies to these songs now, and you can always pick out anyone else who's in a choir who knows the same Green Book harmonies.
Singing in the audience,
yeah,
but
exactly.
providing the harmony.
So that's really lovely.
And what piece of music do you find that keeps you motivated? Do you listen to music when you're working? Is there a particular tune that you have playing when you know you need to work towards a deadline and it keeps you going?
I actually love the scores to different movies. I'm a big movie score buff. I think I prefer to listen to music without words whilst I'm working, because otherwise I find myself trying to sing along and it's a bit too distracting while I'm typing at the same time. I'll start typing music lyrics into my emails. But yeah, I'm a huge movie score fan. I'm a big fan of Hans Zimmer. What I recently discovered, though, he does love to recycle motifs across his different movie soundtracks.
Yeah, characteristic of his music.
It was recently on television they were showing the movie The Rock, and I didn't know that Hans Zimmer had written the score for that, but I picked it up pretty quickly because there's a theme that basically is the same that features both in The Rock and in Gladiator, and also in Pirates of the Caribbean, which the original one, he was involved in the score for that as well. Again, I didn't know this until I heard it and then had to Google it, go, oh, Hans.
It probably means the same thing. It probably signifies a certain thing about, I don't know which theme it is that you're talking about, but perhaps it means victory, or it means...
Possibly,
yeah, because often that's a sort of trait of...
motifs.
Yeah, film music. And the more you know about it, the more you can pick it out and follow his sort of thought map.
Yeah.
And if you could pick one song, Julianne, as your life's theme tune, it's quite a big question, but what would your film soundtrack resemble?
That is a very good question, and I think it would again have to be something big and orchestral. Let me have a little...
It's quite a big...
I think about that.
It could be snippets of Hans Zimmer and snippets of...
I'm a big fan as well of Howard Shore's Lord of the Rings soundtrack.
Yeah.
And I listen to that a lot. As a teen, I'm a big Lord of the Rings nerd. And to be honest, it's interesting because now when I listen to that music again, it's such a memory trigger. And I remember exactly how I felt as a 20-year-old at that time when it was such a big part of my life.
That's the power of music. It can bring you straight back to such an emotional time, years back. And often, actually, that's when I'm teaching piano to adults and they've had maybe a 10-year gap. The first piece they want to learn is the last piece that they learnt when they were in their teens. It can be a very emotional connection.
Yeah. I had a similar experience recently. I heard... the song Aquarium by Sanson, part of the Carnival of Animals.
Yeah, gorgeous.
And I didn't know this at the time, but I had heard that piece of music when I went to Disney World as like an 8-year-old. And just hearing this music just brought me back there straight away, being in this theatre at Disney World. It was
so powerful.
Yeah, it was really quite an emotional experience to me. And it's so funny that just hearing like a bit of music coming up on my iPod or on the radio or whatever, and it just snaps you back to this point in time.
Well, let's have a listen now to Aquarium from the Carnival of the Animals by Sanson. So, growing up in Australia, was music a part of your childhood? Was Australian music, Aboriginal music, a part of your upbringing at all?
Well, music itself was a huge part of my upbringing because my mum's a music teacher, so she teaches music at primary schools. So she would do it one day a week at 4 different primary schools, and she ran their choirs as well.
That's where you get it from.
Yeah, and my dad's also a keen musician as well, so he loves to sing, he loves to play the guitar, and so we've always had very musical household. Our Christmases are concerts, basically. Everyone who can hold an instrument plays an instrument, whether it's just jingle bells or on the piano or playing guitar.
Yeah.
And I've always been involved in choirs as a child as well. So again, that was a big part of growing up in Australia.
Any Australian pop stars or idols that you had on your walls when you were in your teenage years?
Classic Kylie fan.
Yeah, of course.
She's absolutely brilliant, isn't she? And I also really loved Natalie Imbruglia when I was a teenager as well. Was, I had very poppy music tastes.
So taking up the piano, have you found that you've met other people at Macquarie through music making? Have you played with anybody else here?
I've not played with anyone else here yet, but it's something I've wanted to do for a while, and perhaps 2020 will be the year. I'd really love to organise a Macquarie music concert.
Oh,
we have
yes.
so many people taking lessons here at Macquarie now. We even have our little wind trio, who are absolutely fantastic. I've heard them play a couple of times, and there are other people sneakily hiding musical talents across the floors as well, and I think if I can organise a concert, I'll be able to sort of get them to come out of the woodwork.
What is it about music that brings people together in an office environment?
I think it's that shared interest and shared love of something that is completely different to why we're otherwise here in the office. And it is something that people have often done as a child and then really neglected from the time that they left school. I mean, when you're a child or even when you're at university, you've got all this free time that you can spend practicing and performing. And once you sort of enter the real job world, so to speak, all that time just seems to evaporate, and especially when people start families and they've got children to look after, it just becomes impossible to sort of take that time to focus on something that was such a big part of your life and such a love of your life. So having the opportunity to start doing it at work and meeting other people who have that same interest and passion is really lovely.
In a very non-competitive way as well. Yes. I think that's what it's about, and especially across the hierarchy, because it is such a leveller, and to be able to see that your boss, your CEO, or that the young graduate coming in has this passion, and however advanced they are at it, but that is such an immediate way to connect and to actually form a genuine relationship with, which is presumably quite hard otherwise in such a fast-paced day and so many pressures that you need to deliver to be able to actually see someone's genuine passion for something is an important way to then continue to develop your relationship.
Absolutely. And it's one of the challenges with an office choir is that, people are always here for their day job, and so that has to come first with regards to coming along to rehearsals. But despite that, and we may have slightly different people at rehearsals every week, but I think people have enough passion behind it that they put in that extra effort, and so when it comes to concert time, we still manage to make a really good 4-part harmony.
Yeah, it was really impressive. A challenging repertoire, and like you say, 4-part harmony, and owning your own line and growing in confidence to do that does require a little bit of a commitment, but presumably flexible working and increasing trust in everybody's autonomous time helps.
Exactly. And I think it's one of these things where people are perfectly comfortable taking an hour off for their lunch or to go to the gym or something, and this is exactly the same. It's just 1 hour a week where we're staying in the office, coming together, and then just singing, and then go back to work buzzing.
And now that you are back playing piano, presumably you want to share this with your 2 young boys. How old are they?
Yeah, so my little ones are almost 4 and 18 months.
Yeah, so 4, so your older one, perfect age to begin learning the piano. You being able to teach him at this stage and also play with him gives more of a purpose as well for your piano playing.
Exactly. And it's been wonderful. So prior to taking up the lessons again, I think the bulk of my piano playing at home was just nursery rhymes, a lot of Old MacDonald and Wheels on the Bus, which
perfect.
my son loved.
Yeah.
But it's been wonderful for him to hear me actually playing classical music now again as well. And he does love it. He gives me a little round of applause, like, well done. I'm like, oh, thank you.
And it won't be long before he's playing with you, little duets.
He can pick out the top line to Twinkle Twinkle Little Star,
that's
one finger at a time.
Cool,
A little bit hunt and peck with his finger on the keys. But he has a real love of music, which is wonderful.
And that's just so wonderful that you're able to share your love of music with your boys. And does your husband play?
He does. So it's a funny thing that he also had piano lessons as a child, but was less enthusiastic. I think he had a teacher who was very old school.
Whipped his fingers.
Yeah, and just lots of scales and not much else. And it's when we bought a piano for our home and I started to play at home, and I taught him about sort of playing by ear, which was something he'd never done before and couldn't understand. He thought I had some magical gift.
Invisible music.
Yeah, he's like, how can you play Old MacDonald without the music? I'm like, it's Old MacDonald.
I can sing it. Yeah. But it isn't easy to play by ear. That is something that you have to work on and understand the harmony a little bit.
Yeah. And so he's really made a lot of effort to try and learn it. And it's mostly nursery rhymes, but it's quite a good thing to practice. And he loves doing that now. He also has picked up, as you say, the last song that he learned as a child, which was Mozart. It's the Turkish?
Alaturka.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so he practiced that non-stop for the best part of 6 months. So that is the one piece that he plays now.
Isn't that interesting? It's always that last piece that you learn is the first piece, and it's so clear in people's memory and in people's heart, really. It's the emotional attachment you have to that last piece of music that often is the reason to start again. I just wanted to finish it's often Fiorellis, to be honest, or Alaturka. I want to just be able to finish that I stopped 10 years ago. Well, maybe you play duets with
we'll see. That would be nice. At the moment, he gets cross with me because he'll be playing The Ants Go Marching In and trying to find the chords to go underneath. He still doesn't quite get them. I'm in the kitchen going, wrong!
Oh no. I did try teaching my husband before we were married, and I think I had to stop quite quickly, otherwise we might not have got to the point of marriage. So we're into a new year, 2020, and into a time of great unrest in lots of ways. But music has such a healing power, collectively as well as individually. What would you like to see this year in terms of the role of music, not just at Macquarie, but perhaps other partnerships developing here in the City of London through music?
Well, one of my big pushes for this year is to try and get more people involved in our music program to start off with. So I recently did a post on our company intranet to encourage people as part of their New Year resolution to take up an instrument. We've had a really fantastic response to that so far.
New year, new hobby, perfect time to start.
Exactly. And we're restarting our choir rehearsals next week, so we're going to do another drive to try and get some new choir members as well. So as well as expanding the program within Macquarie, I would love to see us do more collaborations with other firms. I know that there are a number of other choirs in the city, so it would be great to get together and do something with them. I know we've attempted in the past to do a get-together, but of course the problem is finding time when everyone from every choir can come together on the same lunchtime can be something of a challenge. But
but we can make that work with Linklaters next door and Travers Smith down the road. I mean, there's a huge number, Standard Chartered around the corner. Because like you say with Travers, it's just become such a social way of actually doing potentially quite a lot of business as well through music making. And what's your go-to uplifting tune? The kind of track where you want to just dance around the kitchen?
If I had to tell you what music do I dance around my kitchen to, which is something that I do.
Yes.
I'm actually a huge fan of the TV show Crazy Ex-Girlfriend.
Okay.
I don't know if you've seen it, but it's Rachel Bloom is the actress who helped write it and also stars in it, and she's a fantastic singer, but a comedy singer. So there's songs spanning just about every genre. and they're all absolutely hilarious as well.
Oh, which one is there one in particular?
I think my favourite is the song called I Have Friends. I Definitely Have Friends.
Oh. We'll have a listen to that then now.
Yeah.
I have friends. I definitely have friends. No one can say that I do not have friends. I have friends. I definitely have friends. Friends, friends, friendly friends. Time to meet my friends. I'm Patty. Go on. Jason and I'm super into Dance Dance Revolution. Girl with a mustache. Boy with Port Weinstein.
Janitor who lives in an RV behind the school.
I have friends. I definitely have friends.
Oh yeah, I have friends. I definitely have friends. Objectively, I can say that I have all the friends. I have friends. I definitely have friends. Friends, friends, friendly friends. Time to meet my friends.
It is absolutely hilarious. I love musical comedies. So my other favourite well, I have two I'll mention.
Yeah.
Flight of the Conchords.
Yes.
Were absolutely brilliant. I'm sure you've seen their TV. So that's our favourite road trip music. My husband and I love listening to Flight of the Conchords and just singing along.
Oh, as
And
you're driving along.
Yeah, and similarly, and again, it's a bit of an Australian theme here, a group called Axis of Awesome.
Okay.
And
Are they Australian?
Yeah, they are, and they're absolutely hilarious. They had a bit of fame. You've probably heard the Four Chord song. So
Yeah.
actually, that was something that I got our choir to sing a few years ago.
Ah.
That we found a choral version of the Four Chord song. And so it's absolutely brilliant. It's basically, they show how the same 4-chord progression underlies just about every pop song.
Oh yeah, it does. That's so true. Yeah, well, let's have a listen to the 4-chord song.
There's a few more that fit. Check it out. My life is brilliant. My love is pure. I saw an angel. Of that I'm sure.
Well, that's just two songs that are similar. That's not a big
forever young.
Three
I
songs.
wanna be forever young. I won't hesitate no more, no more. It cannot wait. I'm yours. This is the way you left me. I'm not pretending. No love, no hope, no glory, no happy ending. 'Cause you were amazing. We did amazing things. If I could, then I would. I'd go wherever you will go. Feel the love tonight, and she will be loved. Yeah, she will be loved.
My parents loved musical theatre as well, and when I was a child, they used to drag me along to all of the performances from our local, the Blue Mountains Musical Society, who did a lot of Gilbert and Sullivan, but I absolutely loved it, and that really created a love of musical theatre for me. So I think my two main playlists that I listen to the most are my movie score soundtracks, which I mentioned, and then my musicals and Disney.
Oh, Disney as well.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah.
Because Disney is basically
And
musical
magical.
theatre, but just on a movie.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, and fantasy. So was that when you were? What sort of age did you go to the Blue Mountain?
Oh, so that was from about the age. As soon as they thought I was old enough to sit through.
Concerts.
So from about probably 6 or 7, and then all the way through my teenage years as well.
Oh, really formative.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
absolutely was. And I have to say, the Blue Mountains Musical Society, they have some really good singers.
Aw.
They did some really good work. The other thing I love to do is my movie soundtracks, right? So there are lots of sort of movie soundtracks that I've tried to pick out by ear. So that's sort of like my relaxing music when I'm not like in the mood for doing something super technical. This is a bit of from Lion King soundtrack.
Great fit. Love it. able to play that at home and share your love of musicals. But you play that beautifully. And it's such a clever thing to be able to play by ear, I think. I mean, having learned from music my whole life, I've really struggled playing without a score and just be able to find those chords, and it's gorgeous.
So one of the first ones that I picked out was a Hans Zimmer piece, and it was from the movie Pearl Harbor, not a classic sort of movie, but it had a really beautiful piece that was something like this.
Film music is just so,
I love it.
Emotional. Thank you, Julianne, for talking with me today and giving up an hour to chat about music and to play beautifully. I really enjoyed hearing you play, and looking forward to playing a duet with you, perhaps.
I would love that. That would be really lovely. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the second episode of the fourth series of my Tessa Talks To podcast, where I've been chatting with Julianne Poston at Macquarie. This series is focused on music in the city and what music means to busy city workers, and the sometimes surprising places you'll find music making. Tune in to my next episode, where I'll be chatting to the CEO of DNA Piper, Simon Levine. He is my piano pupil. I really enjoy teaching him piano on Monday mornings with music and officers, and I can't wait to talk all things city, music and creativity with Simon next month.